An older man had a white horse. It was one of the most beautiful white horses around, and he loved it. The neighbors told him that if he just sold it, he could probably amass a really large fortune. But the man came to love the horse, and he didn't want to sell it. And so every day he went to the stable, and he took care of it, and he brushed it, and he nurtured it. The neighbors told him he was crazy, that at some point, someone was going to come along and steal the horse, and then he would be left with absolutely nothing. And then it seemed like that's exactly what happened, because one day, he woke up, he went to the stable, and the horse was not there. And he looked everywhere, and he couldn't find it anywhere. And the neighbors said, we were right all along. And they rushed to tell the man that he was cursed, because now he didn't have anything at all. But the man's response was this:
"Don't speak too quickly. Say only, the horse is not in the stable. That is all we know. The rest is judgment. If I've been cursed or not, how can you know? How can you judge? All I know is the stable is empty. The horse is gone. The rest, I don't know. All we can see is a fragment. Who can say what comes next?"
What a fool he is, the neighbors thought. But then after several days, the horse returned. He'd not been stolen. He actually had run away. But on his return, he came back with 12 wild horses. So then the neighbors came out to tell the man that he'd been right all along. In fact, he wasn't cursed, he was blessed, because he now had this herd of horses. But the man responded,
"Once again, you go too far. Say only that the horse is back. State only that 12 horses returned with him, but don't judge. How can you know if this is a blessing or not? You see only a fragment. Unless you know the whole story, how can you judge? You read only one page of a book. How can you judge the whole book?"
But don't we? Don't we have that natural human tendency to predict somebody else's outcome? That's not going to work for you. You made the wrong decision. Look what's going to happen next. To judge someone's motives. I think the only reason you did that was because, or to judge their situation. I listened to this talk that was based on the research of a woman named Brené Brown. She gathered some qualitative and quantitative data, which started out on compassion. But within the interviews that she was doing with people, she asked this question: do you think that people are doing the best that they can? Ask yourself. Do you think that people are always doing the best that they can? From this group of people, and I will tell you that it was a group of religious leaders, 50% of the people said no. They did not believe that people were doing the best that they could. I had a situation in my school last week that called that to mind, and I felt like I didn't have to live through this in order to give this talk, but I was heading to one of my campuses, and the person who was painting, and I had said to him, please pull off all of the nails or hooks or anything like that and seal them and then paint the walls. Don't paint around the nails. Have you ever seen that? Drives me crazy. So he was taking everything off. He called me and he said, I hear noises and there are trucks and there are people and they're coming toward me. And I said, they're coming to you? And he said, yes, they're coming to the school. And I said, hand your phone to one of them. and it was a firefighter, and he said, "You've got somebody in here who on purpose pulled the pull box, and we're gonna fine him." And I said, "Oh, I'm sure that's not what he was trying to do. It's that I told him to take everything off the wall." And so he was probably assuming that it could come off. And so he said, "Well, we busted through the front door, and so now there's some other alarm," which was our burglar alarm, "also going off." So as I was heading to that campus, I made a U and I went back so that I could turn off the burglar alarm. But then I got another call that said, "There's a flood happening at the campus in the auditorium because the art teacher," and it was her last day, she is someone for whom things happen very quickly and she doesn't always completely think them out, but one of the things that she discovered was that she really didn't like working with preschoolers, and so the two of us decided it was a good thing for her to not continue working with preschoolers. So it was her very last day, and she was trying to organize the art cart, having some trouble. A lot of people were helping her, and she went to push the cart under the stage, and when she did, there is a series of sprinkler heads underneath the stage that have to do with the sprinklers up above, and the cart crashed into one of them that is supposed to have a protective cage on it, and one sprinkler head did not. And it busted and flooded the auditorium. So I headed there, and when I did, it looked like, what's that movie? Is it the Poseidon Adventure? It looked like... And one of my teachers was totally soaked because he tried to then jump under the stage, and he thought that he could stop the sprinkler head, and so he was soaked from head to toe. And the teacher was soaked and had taken off her shoes, and there were several people who were sweeping and mopping and trying to get all of that done. And one teacher said, this was going to be her last day. She couldn't pull off the last day without something going wrong. It's funny, we hold such a high bar for ourselves. And when we do, it causes a high bar for other people around us, especially when we can't reach the high bar that we've set for ourselves. It's much easier for us to judge the bar that we set for other people. Research scientists, in fact, have said that the statement, "I'm better than you," or "I could have done that better than you," and the statement, "I'm not good enough," actually both emerge from the exact same place in the brain. So this question that Brown asked this group of religious leaders, do you think that people are doing the best that they can, was aimed at trying to uncover some things, including the difficulty that we often have with being able to ease up on people. So she said, to the people who said no, I want you to write down the name of one person that you feel very strongly is not doing the best that they can. And so all the no people had a person in mind and wrote that name down. And then she said, tell me, what if God appeared to you and told you that God knew without a doubt that the very person whose names you wrote down was, in fact, doing the best that they could? What would you do then? How would you feel then? And a typical response was that they would have to stop being angry at that person, they'd have to stop judging, and they'd have to start grieving the person that they had created this person to be. And they'd have to start moving forward. And as they wrote that down and started to verbalize that, some people started to cry. And so she asks the question, why is it so hard for us to assume the best of others in all situations? It's easy to assume the best of others in easy situations. Some of it involves our challenge with being easy with ourselves, and we play out that dis-ease by judging, by jumping to conclusions, or by assuming the worst of others. They're called cognitive distortions. And when we're in dis-ease, we often have cognitive distortions. One of them is magnification, magnifying the negative, and minimization, minimizing the positive. It's that bar that we can't seem to get beyond. I love watching artists in process, especially because I don't consider myself that kind of artist. Painters or sculptors who are in the midst of creating something. And I don't know if you've ever seen it, but sometimes painters will paint something and then they just paint over it and they start all over again. Or a sculptor will start to make something and then they ball it back up into a piece of clay and then they start all over again. They recognize that their work and who they are as artists is not the sum total of what they've put on the canvas or what they've started with in clay, and that it's okay to do it again. It's okay to think it again. I love this quote, which says, "Live in the layers, not in the litter." We need to learn how to be generous enough with ourselves, at ease enough with ourselves, to live in the layers of the good, to live in the layers of the good choices and what I don't call the bad choices, but the lessened choices. The layers of things over which we had no power. The layers over things that we didn't realize how much power we actually had. We need to ease up on ourselves because we deserve it. We need to ease up on ourselves because other people deserve it. I like the fact that cognitive distortions are played out in the movie The Wizard of Oz, and culturally, I happen to really love The Wiz. Just have to say that. And what I love about The Wiz is this. You've got Dorothy and the Tin Man and the Lion and the Scarecrow all dealing with their own negative thoughts about what they don't have and their feelings about what they're struggling with, while they don't see the God inside of them. So they're searching for something that's already there. They're complete with the qualities that they've worked so hard trying to get but had all the time. And they didn't recognize their own completeness. I felt that a little bit listening to Deanne's series on the 12 powers. And I'm someone who loves to work the days of Kwanzaa, but when I saw all 12 of them up there at one time, I was like, man, that's a lot. That's daunting. I can't do all of that. And she even broke them up into 2 or 3 at a time. It's like, really? Until I could finally hear some of what she was saying, that they're already here in my gut. And I just need to be able to recognize that I can access them. There's this moment in The Wiz when Glinda the Good Witch listens to Dorothy's desperate cry. She wanted her friends to get the heart and their brain and all of the things that they wanted to have, but she still hadn't gotten home, and she really, really wanted to be home. And Glinda says,
"Please, is there a way for me to get home? Or Dorothy, you were wise and good enough to help your friends find what was inside them all the time. That's true for you also. Home? Inside me? I don't understand. Home is a place we all must find, child. It's not just a place where you eat or sleep. Home is knowing your mind, knowing your heart, knowing your courage. If we know ourselves, we're always home, anyway.
home is a place we all must find, child. It's not just a place where you eat or sleep. Home is knowing. knowing your mind, knowing your heart, knowing your courage. If we know ourselves, we're always home anywhere. The knower that knows. I think we heard that over the past few weeks. We have what we need inside already. We have the 12 powers within us already. We don't need to journey to somewhere else, to someone else, in order to get them. We don't need to look at someone and look at what we feel like they don't have because we're struggling with what we feel like we don't have. We just need to recognize it and we need to access it. And here's the thing, the gift is that our access may allow us to see the accessibilities that others also have. That as much as we may want to say that we have access to the 12 powers and that we hold them, other people do too. And if we hold that about them, we will look at them with greater love and with greater ease. What a thought. It's a matter of equity, that everybody's already got what they need, and that we need to see that in everybody. And it's an important part about living with ease, that living with ease becomes living with honor, because you honor self and you honor others who also have the potential of accessing those same powers. We discern not from a place of fault, I remember Dia mentioning, but from love. And our imagination doesn't issue from cognitive distortions, but from possibilities that we hold for ourselves and we hold for other people. Because if things are possible for us, things are possible for other people. And when we look at something that is challenging, we need to hold the possibility of the best good for someone else. Our wisdom is grounded in positive understanding. We become our access and our prayer, and we release. We experience release. To all of them. And that release, real ease. As the song said, and maybe that's what I like about The Wiz, rather than follow the yellow brick road, ease on down the road. Don't you carry nothing that might be a load? Come on, ease on down the road. From that place of real ease, we can move to a place of understanding for others. There's a woman whose name is Rudine Sims Bishop, and she's the author of a book that's called Mirrors, Windows, and Sliding Glass Doors. And it's a book that actually has to do with children and how children need to have other kinds of cultural experiences. But many people have found, and I would submit that the premise is one that is there in life for all of us. Using her metaphor in life, we can ask ourselves how we see others when we're not viewing them from a place of ease. If we experience only mirror perception, we see only what is like ourselves. We really see us and how people need to measure up to us. If we experience through windows, we begin to see out. We start to see and appreciate something that is not quite like ourselves, so as to question and to understand rather than fault-finding or judging. And when we see life through sliding glass doors, we've developed the curiosity and the courage and the ease to start to step into someone else's position, to experience from their perspective, so as to dare to begin to understand and to feel what another world is like. There's this song, and I said to Dallas that I wish I had thought of that one before, by Adele, called Ease on Yourself. Somebody? Go Easy on Me. Go Easy on Me. And she sings, go easy on me, baby. I was still a child, didn't get the chance to feel the world around me. I had no time to choose what I chose to do, so go easy on me. It's a song about parenting and how difficult parenting is. And I considered that song my parenting trademark. Because when I listened to the words and I thought about the times when my children say that I'm way too hard, or I'm way too easy, or I didn't see it from their perspective, it's like, yes, yes, yes. I got heterosexually married when I was 17, and I had 3 children very young. I had never smoked, never went out with friends, never went to the prom, never went to a ball. I was of a very different religion, and so I just don't have those kinds of experiences. And so could I have made all of those mistakes of looking at it differently? Yes. But wow, go easy on me. And we so need to do that with each other because we don't know what other experiences, what lived experiences someone has had or has not had. And so before we start to judge it, and in spiritual communities, that's so easy to do. Why didn't Christine have this book in the book room? Why did Reverend Deanne say those words? Or why didn't she not say these words? Or I think she said them too many times. I think she didn't say them enough. Why did the choir sing that song? Why didn't they sing this song? Well, I didn't like that song. Well, it should have been by somebody else. It's so easy for us to do that. I really loved the food outside, but I wanted spaghetti. Our compassion extends from compassion of self to compassion of acceptance, the compassion of others. We change the self-starting place of we can do better to we hold the understanding that we're doing the best that we can with the tools that we have in the moment that we're living right now. And we say it to ourselves, I have made the best choice that I could make given the person that I was in that moment at that time in my life, and life is so transitory, you are never that person. The next moment, you are not the person that you were the moment before. And so it's always coming from a different place. And from that place of self-acceptance, we can go into the ease of accepting other people. That's what we need to do when it's easy. And that's what we need to do when we have to access our sense of ease because it doesn't feel like it's easy. The ease of positivity has been a model for us for so long, and rather than fighting it and expecting too much of ourselves and others, we just need to be vulnerable to see how we can hold ourselves with ease and how to hold others with ease. I was looking at the clock to see how much time I have, but it's not there. Oh, it's there. I just took a first aid CPR class, and they used to tell you that the very first thing that you do is to check the scene and then call 911. They added something new during COVID, and that is that the very first thing that you do is breathe. And they said that the reason why they added it is because they realized that the person who's helping is not the same person who's not thinking clearly, whose energy is up, whose adrenaline is up, and so you need to access the person that you really are. And so in order to do that, you pause, even though there's a pending emergency, that you may make the wrong call on the emergency if you are not in your body. And so the first thing that you do is just breathe. And wouldn't that be amazing if every time there was a challenging moment with somebody else, that's the first thing that we did? Hold on, let me reach in here and figure out who I am. Now, I could leave you the notion that that's something that I always do. It's not. But the song reminds me that there's a road to ease down, which means there's a journey that we need to have to keep trying. And I like the story of the man with a horse, because we need to remember that every situation we encounter is only a page in the book. It's not the whole book. It's not the whole story. And there's no single story. There's all many stories of many lived experiences. And if we just recognize each and every moment as a gift of encountering someone, we recognize that the gift may be packaged differently at one time than another time, but the person is still the same gift. And as we are the same gift to them and ourselves, we ease into that. And sometimes that very same person may say or do something that makes us uncomfortable, but I think comfort is overrated. So having things the same way is comfortable, but that comfort means that we maintain the status quo, and if we've learned anything, we don't need the status quo. We need to keep growing. We need to keep changing. And we need each other here. So we have to give each other peace space for ease space. Peace space for ease space, where we shift our lens of judgments of the page to the honor of the whole story, where we see the Christ in ourselves and in others, where we recognize that we don't have to judge ourselves for not having the answers, but we don't have to judge anybody else for the same thing. So in that moment, in the flood, I walked into the auditorium and I saw the teachers who were soaked, and I saw Lucy having taken off her shoes and put them outside in the sun because they were completely soaked. And I looked at her, and our eyes met each other, and I put my arms out, and I said, "Come here." And she fell into my body, and we hugged. And she said, "Is it a God thing because I said that I don't like to work with preschoolers?" She said, "You know, the Bible, the flood, and all of that." And I said, "Things happen. Things happen. And there was the mess, and there'll be an insurance bill." I didn't say these things to her, but it was done. It was done. There was nothing for me to say about what had already happened because it had already happened. I could see it all over her face that she was feeling miserable. Why would I need to do anything about that, to judge it, or to say what should have or would have occurred? It just did. It was just time for us to move forward. And the best contribution that I could have given anyone around me was the leadership of saying, "Let's move forward." I wouldn't have looked at the decisions that I made that would have changed things. What we needed to do was to look at the decisions moving forward. And I didn't want to miss who she was in the moment, this joyful person who came in smiling all of the time, this person who, even though things would mess up for her, would try and try and try and try again. It gave me the understanding that I could not give up too. I could try. When things didn't work for me, I could do what Lucy does and just keep trying. And my ease with me in that moment allowed me to have more ease and openness with her. So I want you to just have a quiet moment, Jeremy. Because I thought to myself, how do I end this talk? And then I thought, I'm going to be easy on myself. I want to go back to the words of David White, and so I want you to quiet your body so as to hear them. And if you ever have the opportunity to listen to these words on YouTube, David White happens to be a poet who often repeats his words a couple of times, so it was nice to have heard that done this morning. So if you'll just center yourself for a moment. Put down the weight of your aloneness and ease into the conversation. The kettle is singing even as it pours you a drink. The cooking pots have left their arrogant aloofness and seen the good in you. Seen the good in you at last. All the birds and creatures of the world are unutterably themselves. Everything is waiting for you. Everything is waiting for you. Let's read the affirmation and hear yourself say it to yourself. Together. The road to ease is within my reach. I live within the ease of my own discomfort and hold radical acceptance. And so it is.